Okay, we're going to talk about and then demonstrate planting a rose, in this instance a growing and in fact blooming rose out of a 5-gallon container. But before I get on with that, let me just say on growing roses or fruit trees, it doesn't matter 1, 10, 100, 1,000 trees. The basic principles and practices are about the same. So there's a lot of info that can be transferred, transposed from garden scale to field scale and vice versa. There are 3 principal routes you can go for getting established with planting of roses. One is to buy bare root stock in the off season. It's planted as dormant bare root stock, and that's generally done here in Central California, mid-late December through January into February. And let me just say this, whether it's roses or again fruit trees, the sooner you get that item in the ground, the sooner it's going to start growing, and the sooner it will come to fruition. With fruit trees, you know, it takes 3 to 5 years to get a appreciable crop. With roses, a January planted bare root shrub will be blooming for you in April and be pretty much at full establishment by mid-late summer that first year. The turnaround and the dividends are, you know, considerable. So you could plant bare root stock. Or you could wait till a little bit further into the season, generally in mid-March. Most nurseries will have roses growing and probably blooming in 5-gallon containers. So you can put that in the ground, and again, it's going to cost you maybe almost twice as much to plant a container rose versus a bare root rose. So you might want to think about that. And then it's a little bit of a delicate, dicey operation getting that container rose in the ground without suffering any soil loss to the root ball or transplant shock, but it's so doable. One reason to plant blooming container roses is you can actually see what is the shape and the color of the bloom, what is the habit of the shrub. When you see catalogs, a lot of those color photos are enhanced, and I have been often disappointed by what the reality of that bloom looks like. So I wait, I buy a blooming rose, I see yay or nay, I stick it in the ground like that. So it's just something to think about. Again, thinking about catalog descriptions of anything. It's all about good, better, and best, superlatives. There's never been a variety of anything that was touted in a description as, you know, it's okay, it doesn't really bloom that much, and it has some disease issues. So you have to be a smart consumer. You have to read a little bit between the lines, but the proof is in the pudding, as they say. So if you're unsure about a variety, you can buy a container rose in bloom, approve it, and stick it in the ground. You can also visit rose gardens in your municipality or area like that. So we have a 5-gallon blooming floribunda type rose called hot cocoa. You see here and you see here. It has a pretty singularly unique color scheme here. They say cinnamony chocolate, yeah, sure. But it is enticing, yeah. It is subtly sweet, and more on this variety later. So we've got a 5-gallon rose. We'll dig a hole, generally slightly wider and slightly deeper than the root mass. One gauging thing is to put an empty, you rough out your hole and then you just put an empty similar sized container in to gauge depth. Now your planting depth is critical. So this is obviously a bigger hole than the root ball is going to be, and that's not only okay, that's good. Ease of roots spreading out into that fluffed up soil in there is good, but you want to be extra careful about the planting depth of your rose. Basically, to be safe, you plant it at the same depth as the soil level in the container, but you certainly do not want to bury this swollen bulbous thing here is the bud union. You do not want to bury that. That needs to be above the ground. We've dug a hole, a couple feet wide, a couple feet deep. We've fractured the bottom of the hole, just a little better drainage, root penetration. We're now ready to place this beautiful hot cocoa rose in the ground here. And this is my assistant, Noah, here, who's adept in so many things. And like I said, it's a little delicate, dicey to get it out with minimal soil loss from the root ball. Grab it by the shank, bonk, bonk, bonk on the perimeter of the pot. Look at that. You're in, you're off, you're running. And then you can, as I say, bury it. Now, I don't literally mean that. I mean you just fill in the soil. This is just our excavated fill soil here. Plenty rich. Needn't worry about fertilization in the hole. After we plant here subsequently, we will do a top dressing of compost and a couple different fertilizers, and then mulch it off and water it.
Okay, I'm just going to keep rolling here, and maybe I will
speed it up.
Speed it up.
All right.
But when he gets ready to do the next step,
yeah,
maybe you can talk about why fertilize on top as compared
great.
to the soil.
Let's also make a little faux basin there for.
Should I?
Yeah.
Is this part of the shot now?
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and talk about what he's doing.
Okay, he's just making a little basin here, and this is simply to facilitate the initial watering, a little pond to fill up and have it drain down. Eventually, we're going to put a drip line tape in here for irrigation. At that juncture, we'd like the soil to be even for the water to be distributed evenly, but this looks quite sumptuous. We're good. The next step would be a top dressing of fertilizer. We're going to use, as we have out here, a beautiful finished homemade compost. We're going to put about 3 shovelfuls evenly around the spread of the root ball. And this speaks to an old adage is, well, where do you put fertilizer? And the answer generally is, a la the adage, at or above the effective feeding root zone of the plant. And the rationale being that nutrients, particularly nitrogen, but nitrogen definitely, but other nutrients leach downward in the soil profile. If you put them slightly above or at the root zone, they will leach down into the effective feeding root zone. The plant will be fortified. If you put them too deep, never the twain shall meet. That is, the nitrogen particularly will leach down below the root zone like that. So we put 3 shovelfuls of compost, and then we have a few different fertilizers here. Let me just say, roses are demanding, heavy feeding, and they need a lot of nutrients, and they need it now. One of the good things about compost is that it's slow acting. It kind of has a half-life, some now, some in a little bit, some down the road, even a year or two. So compost is slow acting, that's good. Compost is slow acting, that's not so good, that's bad. That is, in the instance of roses, needing of nutrients now. So it's a little bit of an intermediate long-term plan with the compost. But for a quick kick, we're going to use a few different fertilizers here. This is a product called Sustain, which is simply composted turkey and chicken litter, and it's a really good kind of balanced fertilizer, about 8% nitrogen, 2% phosphorus, 4% potassium. Nitrogen is the main nutrient that you're interested in getting roses off to a start when they're planted and early in each season. It has dominion, as it were, over vegetative growth. Your goal is to grow that rose bush as quick as you can so it can bloom for you. So we generally will use anywhere from a ½ pound to a pound of a high nitrogen fertilizer. This Sustain being 8%, I generally put on about 3/4 pound. A higher nitrogen fertilizer like bat guano or blood meal, 12%, I would put on a ½ pound. Lower nitrogen fertilizers, Dr. Earth, Gardner and Bloom, and many of the others are about 5%, so I just put a little more on. So spreading it evenly, and then 2 other products, which indeed are fertilizers, but I don't really look at them in terms of their fertilizer effect. I mean, you get that. But one is alfalfa meal, which is a moderate source of nutrients. But what's the benefit? It contains a very potent growth hormone, triacontanol. which, and the American Rose Society has done research on this, really stimulates root growth and enhances photosynthesis, gets the plant established and moving forward real quickly. And then this other product here is simply kelp meal, which also contains a number of different growth hormones, but also kelp meal, kelp products in general are an organic grower's insurance policy against any micronutrient deficiencies. It's loaded with them. So we spread these on. Again, there was more of the fertilizer, less of the other additives, the alfalfa and the blood meal. And then we're going to just scratch them into the surface a little bit, just to integrate them a little bit, interface a little bit with the soil. But again, this is a surface top dressing. We're not putting it at depth. It will leach downward over time as we water the plant. And we look like we're good to go. Let me make a statement, blanket statement, which is that water activates fertilizer, particularly dry fertilizers. So nutrients become available to plant as they dissolve into the soil solution, the soil water. They're then taken up by the plant's roots and distributed up into and throughout the plant and used as needed. So you could say nutrients hitchhike a ride with water up and into the plant. It's almost Pavlovian. You fertilize, you water to activate that fertilizer. Also, when you're transplanting, you want to water in to get a good, firm soil root knit. That facilitates transplanting. So we'll then just do, and it's not like watering a cute little delphinium or lettuce here. You really want to, as I say, mud it up. You really want to get that extent and depth of the root system wet, saturated. So you know, be liberal with your application of water. And then after we finish that, we'll apply a wood chip mulch here. The advantages of wood chip mulch are multiple. One protects the surface of the soil from degrading influences, the weather, rain, wind, sunlight, etc. Preserves a nice permeable open soil surface. It caps in moisture big time, reducing your need to water. And then slowly, but not as slowly as you might think for the stuff that is almost pure carbon, it breaks down and leaches its nutrients into the soil profile for the plant to utilize. It also has a phenomenal effect on ramping up soil biology. So it's a good thing. You could use straw, you could use leaves of deciduous trees, you could use wood chips like this. I'm a big fan of the wood chips. They're usually available from various tree services around your area to be delivered free. Can't beat free. Free stuff is good. So we can just apply it in a nice even manner. It can be 1 inch, 2 inch, 3 inches. And this is something that I would re-up periodically, at least once a year, but maybe even a couple, 3 times a year. Another advantage to wood chips is it's kind of like an insulating blanket in a sense. Many of the fungal spores of diseases that roses get are on the orchard floor, as it were, and or on leaves that have been dropped onto the floor. So putting on you certainly practice good orchard floor sanitation, cleanup and all that, but putting a wood chip mulch there periodically is a buffer from those fungal spores bouncing up quite literally into the canopy. So we've got a hot cocoa rose here. It's in the ground. It's off and growing, and I would anticipate that this rose, today is May 4. I would anticipate by the 4th of July, this would present, as it were, as a fully established shrub, probably topping out at 48, 50 inches by 30 inches wide. As you can see, its propensity to bloom, which is typical of modern roses, is pretty considerable. First bloom, we'll probably have 8 or 10 roses. Second bloom, maybe as many as 15 or 20. Third bloom, on and up. And in a mild climate like this, you can certainly get 2 or 3 rounds of rose bloom, often 3 or 4. So moving forward with hot cocoa roses planted from a container.